The episode begins with these soldiers watching a mysterious superhero named Veet. Since he wears a mask that they describe as a terrifying visage, everyone quickly flees upon seeing him. Afterward, Veet removes his mask and communicates with his sword telepathically. He seems quite intrigued by the eerie mask and is determined to maximize his immense strength stats before the Holy Knights set out to destroy his village and target him. The scene then shifts to the morning at 9 a.m., where Veet is trimming trees in a large garden. At this time, a woman named Roxy approaches him and informs him of a secret mission he must accompany her on. Without hesitation, Veet agrees, and they get into a car. While driving, Roxy shares some information about a piece of land to the east, belonging to the Hart family, which is exceptionally beautiful and abundant with vegetables and crops. Veet jests, asking if their mission is to pick grapes, but he's only joking. After half an hour, they finally arrive at their destination, and Roxy's mother, the woman in a green cloak with beautiful hair, is watching them. When she sees Roxy, she rushes toward her, and it appears she is her mother. When she inquires about Roxy's condition, her mother tells her that she's feeling much better. She then asks her mother about the man who came with her. Roxy points at Veet and informs her that he is their new servant, brought along to assist them on the journey and act as their protector. She also mentions that she wants him to meet everyone. Veet proceeds to introduce himself, feeling quite embarrassed. Roxy's father then tells Veet that his name is Aisha Hart and expresses his delight at their visit. Veet thanks them for their kindness. Then, Veet's sword communicates with him telepathically, mentioning that Aisha appears to be a polite and refined woman. Afterward, Hart uses her hands to signal Veet to come closer. When he approaches, she asks him if he is fond of her daughter Roxy. When Roxy hears this question, she becomes embarrassed, and her face turns red. Veet, too, is extremely surprised and displays evident embarrassment. Then her daughter scolds her for that question because it embarrassed her so much, and she shouldn't have asked it. Hart, her mother, tells her she didn't mean anything by it. At this point, Veet begins to speak, expressing his interest in Roxy. He kneels on one knee and tells her that he wants to serve her until his last day. Both Roxy and her mother are very pleased with this beautiful declaration. However, Roxy starts feeling nervous and tells them that she needs to go and rest for a while in her room. At this moment, Hart talks to Veet about this matter, as he didn't do anything wrong. She explains that Roxy always flees when situations become awkward as she is quite shy. She then shares a little story about Roxy's past, mentioning that she used to cry a lot when she saw a spider and would make a big fuss, even screaming. Veet is quite surprised to hear this and tells her that things have changed as her daughter has become a very accomplished holy knight, and she is now feared by many. Hart continues the conversation with Veet, especially after losing her husband. She suddenly had to take on the role of the family's head, which was quite unexpected. Veet reassures her, saying that Roxy is an excellent holy knight, and people trust her. She excels in her duties as the head of the family. The scene then shifts to Roxy in her large room, where she opens a box, and it plays soothing music. Tears well up in her eyes as she looks at a statue of her father in her hands. She remembers her father training her when she was a little girl, holding her hand and instructing her to hold her sword next to her chin. Her father was very proud of her, never expecting that she would become a holy knight just like him. She tells her father's statue that she wants to be just like him, protecting the weak and her town from evil and external threats. Returning to the present, Veet is seen picking red grapes. A man with a big hat approaches him and gives him a glass of fresh grape juice. When Veet drank the grape juice, he was extremely delighted because of its delicious taste. The man explained that this drink was the strength elixir and had personally assisted the lords in cultivating this land for countless generations. Everyone in this land, including Sir Mason, drinks this elixir. Veet then asked if Roxy helps with the harvest every year. The man explained that she does, but only for a limited time, as she mainly enjoys hunting monsters. This harvest involves most crops, not just grapes, which is why many monsters appear in search of food. The man then pointed to the location from which the monsters, particularly the kobolds, come. At this point, the man noticed Veet's stomach rumbling, indicating that he was hungry from all his hard work. They both laughed at this light-hearted exchange. The scene shifts to Veet carrying grapes in that area. Roxy approaches him and tells him to go back without her, as she plans to stay there for a while. Veet starts walking back, but suddenly, he encounters a girl holding a large sword taller than herself. He approaches her with curiosity, and when she stands in front of him and looks into his eyes, he is taken aback because her eyes look exactly like his, covered in red. Veet tries to use his sensing ability to learn more about her but finds no information. She then gives him a strange look and walks past him. Veet calls out to her, asking her to wait, and inquires about her purpose in that place. She tells him that she came to pursue the kobold monster. She then assures him that they will meet again and leaves the area. Veet then asks his sword through telepathy about the girl, but the sword informs him that it doesn't know anything about her, which surprises Veet because his sword usually knows everything. This time, it has no information to share, and it hasn't provided any details about her. The sword's lack of knowledge frustrates Veet, and he expresses his annoyance. The sword explains that there are many things it doesn't know because it doesn't possess omniscience or the ability to engage in divination, astrology, or summoning demons and spirits to know the past. At this moment, Roxy arrives carrying 2 bags and asks Veet to carry one of them. Veet is surprised because she had earlier told him that she would stay there for a while and wouldn't accompany him. Then Roxy tells Veet that she is going to collect some grapes, and when she looks at the girl, she explains that she's from the city of Gallia. Veet informs her that he's heard that Gallia was completely destroyed, and Roxy confirms that this is true. 1,000 years ago, Gallia had a powerful military, but a wave of monsters attacked, leading to the collapse of their civilization, and most of its people perished. However, there are survivors, although she doubts that she has ever seen someone from the original Gallia before. At the end of their conversation, Roxy tells Veet that they must return to the palace, so he follows her. He tells her that he's heard about the monsters and is concerned about her fighting them alone. She reassures him that she won't be alone. The warriors working with her are holy knights, and she's a holy knight herself, so they won't have any problems. Suddenly, Roxy notices that she has dropped some grapes, so she rushes to pick them up, with Veet's help. The next morning, a thick fog covers the grape fields in Roxy's farm. The farmers realize that the monsters have consumed all the grapes and feasted upon them. Roxy, accompanied by Veet and some of her men, arrives at the scene. When Veet sees these monsters, he recognizes them as kobolds, and Roxy informs him that dealing with these monsters is her task. As they approach the area, they sense something unusual near a tree. A massive monster suddenly appears, astonishing both Veet and Princess Roxy. Veet has never seen a creature like this before, and he experiences a strange feeling, as his mouth waters upon seeing it. His sword warns him that he will be extremely hungry as it notices his drool. Veet understands that this is not the time for such a reaction. Before taking any action, Veet consults his sword to check the monster's rating. He discovers that it is a level 50 monster, which shocks him. His sword explains that this monster is a crown beast, a formidable creature that brings sorrow, born from centuries of accumulated grudges. It's a unique and powerful entity, quite different from ordinary monsters. Roxy reassures the frightened townspeople that she, as a holy knight, will protect their land and all its residents from the monsters. She requests that they seek safety and leave the preparations for the battle to the warriors. Her words are met with gratitude from the villagers. However, Veet's sword insists that she cannot handle this alone, as the monsters are too powerful for a young holy knight like her. One of the warriors speaks up, saying that they will go and prepare for the battle properly, which will take some time. Veet is left to ponder the situation, realizing that facing a level 50 monster is beyond his current capabilities. He is determined not to allow Princess Roxy to die. In the night, they observe a large number of monsters, and Veet watches them from a hilltop. He converses with his sword, acknowledging its role in the coming battle. It appears that his sword's enthusiasm for the upcoming fight amuses Veet. However, he knows he cannot ignore what is happening in Heartslands, and he will not allow Princess Roxy to perish. Later, as the night falls, Veet surveys the monsters from the mountaintop. He's somewhat amused by the excitement his sword exhibits as it takes on the role of the hero once again. He knows he can't ignore the situation and will not allow Princess Roxy to die. In the darkness, he spots a group of monsters, and his sword informs him that there's a crowned kobold and, most likely, the rest are smaller kobolds. Veet wonders what his plan should be and determines that he will fight them with all his might. His sword transforms into a massive spear, and he prepares to engage the monsters. He unleashes his ferocity on the smaller kobolds one by one, activating the skill of slaughter. Veet's combat prowess is impressive, but the crowned kobold remains, along with very few smaller ones, and they are unable to keep up with his pace. The large kobold leads his smaller minions in confronting Veet, and a brutal battle ensues. Veet fights them with extreme ferocity, determined to eliminate them all. However, when he attempts to strike the large kobold with an arrow, the monster manages to catch it. Veet is shocked by the creature's strength. Veet's sword advises him to get closer to the monster so they can cut it down, and Veet swiftly moves towards the large kobold with the intention of killing it. The large kobold possesses a skill called Destruction Punch, which can pierce through armor, shatter bones, and crush internal organs. The sword warns Veed about this devastating attack, and he remains in place to avoid it. Despite his caution, the monster delivers a powerful punch to Veed's shoulder, causing him to fall to the ground. The sword calls out to him, urging him to continue the battle. Veed musters his strength and returns to his feet, ready to confront the kobold once more. He strikes the monster and manages to sever one of its arms. Then the sword told him, "Pretend to be unconscious. I've learned a clever trick." The beast attacked him with its strength, throwing him away. Fido quickly approached it and used his slaughter skill to kill the monster. The sword explained that he could now use the secret art of level 1, which would require 10% of his current stats. The sword transformed into a more powerful form and Fido used it to strike down the monster. Afterwards, Fido was exhausted and cried out loudly. We then moved to the next day, with many people astonished by the number of monsters he had killed, bearing the marks of the sword and arrows. Roxy suggested that the arrows might be enchanted, and she asked who could have done this. She then spoke with her mother, expressing her disappointment at the devastation caused. She mentioned a girl from Gallia who had been seen recently, rumored to be even stronger than the Holy Knights. Roxy found Fido very tired and suggested they take a break. Her father approached Fido and asked him for a favor, to stay by his daughter's side and support her. Fido was hesitant, believing that someone like him had no place beside her. Roxy reassured him, explaining that she didn't want him to have authority or power like a holy knight, but his willingness to help was valuable to her. She admitted that she used to be an ordinary girl with unremarkable skills but had supported her husband in various ways. She felt that being the only parent of Roxy had posed certain challenges. In the night, we see Fido killing many monsters, and the sword tells him to carry a secret like the slaughter skill. Fido responds that there are no monsters stronger than goblins here. The sword warns him that time is running out, and he must decide what's next. Fido, looking sad, says that he has no right to stand by Lady Roxy's side. Then, an old man enters the scene, saying that Mr. Hato will join the lich hunting mission, possibly seeking quick glory. They plan to send him to Gallia, where he'll become monster food. The store owner advises people like him to stay in safe places. Another person will go on the mission to Gallia. Fido is surprised to hear of another mission to Gallia even though Mr. Mason just died. Next, we see Roxy standing in front of her father's grave, telling him that she's been assigned to the Gallia mission. Fido appears and tells her not to go to Gallia, fearing she might not return. Roxy insists that she has made her decision and leaves Fido behind. A man talks, mentioning that the Hart family is a source of annoyance for the Fleric family and the rest of the knights. Rumors suggest that the Hart family prepared for this mission to Gallia as well. A girl talks to Hato, telling him they will finally get rid of the source of annoyance, and he can handle the rest. Hato says he wishes she could come along, but she tells him it's not just for fun, it's a search. Her brother tells Hato to rely on him to take care of the lich matter. Fido speaks up, saying he can't reverse official orders, and he can't stop Lady Roxy. However, he hasn't allowed them to treat people like trash and cause more suffering. Suddenly, the knights appear behind him, and one of them says, "This boy must be the one they call dead." Fido looks at them in astonishment. So, what will happen with these villains, and how will Fido act in this matter? Stay tuned for the 5th episode to find out everything.